Welcome back to another episode of the War Room. This kind of is our kickoff to the draft season here, Seifert, in 2025. I know we've talked about some college stuff, high school stuff, getting ready, but the Super 60 each year, that's what we're going to be talking about today. The 23rd annual Super 60 Pro Case in Chicago. I always feel like each year it kicks off the draft season. All the scouts coming together. It's almost like a convention, 100 plus MLB scouts getting together, get a look at some of the top prospects in the country and see where we're going to head into the spring. But Seif, welcome to the show. What did you think of just the event as a whole?
Man, I know that we always run the 60s first, and it's always like, okay, here's my first wow moment, right? Here's my next wow moment. Just guys running six. I think we had the first best was like a 6.6, then we're down to 6.45, and the guy just whistles off a 6.29, like wow. And then there's some impressive BPs, guys just launching balls. One guy, his sweet spot rate was 100%. I forget who it was, but like, I didn't even know that was a stat until I'm looking at the post-event data, right? But like in my notes, barreled every ball, right? Like, so that's impressive just to do. You step in there, you never seen this BP throw. They're throwing really good BP, but you step in there and you barrel every single ball, and then to end it at the end of the day with, four of the first six arms were just like boom, boom, boom. Like, wow, we got some really good arms. And there's some other good ones sprinkled in, but just to start off the pitching like that was amazing as well.
For sure. And I want to start off with kind of a story that I always look at, and I think back to, and if you ever read Malcolm Gladwell, the David and Goliath, it does this thing on big fish, kind of big fish, small pond situation. Harvard grads, you go off to school, like, right, you're going to Harvard. You're the best students in the world. You're heading there, but somebody's going to be lowest in the class, but you're still at Harvard. And I think about that with the Super 60 each year, especially when I'm going to write it up, right? Like, these were the biggest winners. Hey, all 70, however many of you guys were, you are winners. That's why you were at the event. It's hard to like narrow the focus into like this showing these were good guys. Like all of you, not saying you other ones are bad. We're just saying right now, this was the moment. Here's some guys. And it's always for me, like, I want to like tell the kids, like, don't forget about that. And even going back to last year, I keep bringing up the kid Tyler Renz from New York. Did not throw a great bullpen. Like, might have been the worst bullpen at the Super 60 last year. He ends up getting 800K from the Brewers, had a great spring, goes out there, does great stuff. He moved well. He had some attributes that were about him. There are so many good things you can take away. So before we dive into this site, we're going to go talk about these players. A lot of them, or almost all of them, you saw for the first time, which is going to be refreshing. I have my own biases diving into these, and we're going to do some fun stuff here. I'm going to pull up my screen share. We're going to be scrolling around like we're Twitch streamers, right, Seif? You know what I'm talking about there, of course. But I think as a whole, awesome event. You talked about the athleticism, the dudes that are running. I did all those interviews on Saturday. The amount of kids who sat down and were expecting to run 6'4", 6'3". I'm like, really? What? Are you serious? And then dudes showed up and they made sure that they cashed those checks. So good for them there, Yeah,
I mean, it was obviously super impressive. But and to your point earlier, you said I haven't seen any of these guys. I really hadn't, because in years past I'd maybe gone to East Coast Pro or done some area codes or whatever. But I literally had not seen a single bit of any of these players. And what I also do to kind of handicap myself in the right way is I don't write down any of our rankings or any notes going into it. I just look at them kind of blind. And it's only a 6-7 hour snapshot of the player. It's just one day. Some guys I know were sick and couldn't attend, and other guys were there and were sick. So you really can't put too much into this. But when guys show out, like who was I talking about earlier? The pitcher Nadu from Maine, like he absolutely balled out. And then Talon Haley from Mississippi, and then you had some position players like Chase Kroberger from New Jersey. Like, just what they're doing. Yeah, it's just a one-day look, but what they're doing is pretty special. So it was a great day.
For sure. And you talked about the sickness. I mean, this was flu game for a lot of these guys. They were pulling out of there, and I'm sure everyone across the country is going through it. Sounds like it is very much flu season all over. So hopefully everybody is resting peacefully here after the Super 60. But I'm going to dive into some of these stats and you and I talk about like the feeling of the in-person. We're always that bell curve. I'm so adamant about like the in-person scouting, adding in the analytics, bringing it all together so you can cover all sides of things. I'm going to shift over to our stat page here, Seif. I'm looking at some stuff and like the initial, right, the very basic, hey, who's running fast 60s? Okay, so we pull it up. William Patrick, Louisiana kid, busted 6'2", 92 from the outfield, 101 exit velocities. I thought he had a stellar day. Just a well-connected swing. Talking with him, he spent the entire month of August out on the West Coast in California. Stayed with his friend Cooper Fleming, his kid from Southern California, Vanderbilt recruit. Really good infield prospect, also pitches. William Patrick was like a 4-star wide receiver from the state of Louisiana, Seif. Had a chance to go play football at LSU, was a 2-time Future Gamer, was outstanding his second year at the Future Games, right? The loud tools, you're always betting on those athletes. It has come together. He had a really good summer. I thought the swing, he maintained balance really well, was tightly connected, not doing too much. I think there's more power to come. I don't know what you saw from him. What did you have in your notes?
That's funny you say tightly connected. That's exactly what my notes said. I thought when you put everything together, which for me, like he ran a 6.29 event best. Yeah, you got to love that. He threw 92 from the outfield. Yeah, that's really good too. There are other guys that had similar run and throw, measurables. But as far as just breaking down the swing, like what swing would you choose? His was probably it's just the classic right-hand setup, with the bat behind the head, slightly spread, really good balance. But what stood out was just how he stayed connected. Like it was there. He was sequencing. Like I liked his swing and some guys hit it harder, right? And some guys found the barrel a little bit more often. But like as a whole, I liked his swing, just the pure swing, the best, and it was right-handed too. So I'm not saying William Patrick was my favorite play on the day, but he's definitely one of the top 3.
For sure. And like, again, I have the background. I'm going to be feeding you the information. Like I look back to last year, which is going to be tough to outpace what last year's was. It was kind of a culminating moment of having like the Cash Mayfields, who was hurt during the summer, coming back into the winter, getting those big moments. But like Griffin Burkholder, who showed up last year, ends up making, I think, $2.5 million. Trying to compare a guy like William Patrick to Griffin Burkholder is like not quite on that level with the electricity of what Burkholder saw, but there's a ton of athleticism, things to like. Just hopping back over to the stat page, because this is just a glimpse into the basic after the event. This is what I felt. I like these swings. Let's comb through the 60s, right? Okay. I mean, shoot, you're looking at all those 6'3", 6'2", 6'4", 6'4", 6'5", 6'5". But beyond that, even just the Vald stuff where you go into the 10-yard, okay, interesting. William Patrick had the best 10-yard split. So he can get out of the gate quickly. Mason Legenza, who was a huge frame guy, left-handed hitter from Pennsylvania. I think he was like 6'5", 210, but he ran a 6'4". He had some of the best 10-yard splits, 107 exit velocities. What did you have from Legenza? It's a little bit, I would call almost like a golfy swing. He is a former golfer, but the athleticism, the frame's unteachable. He's a left-handed hitter. Do you have anything else on him there, Seif?
Yeah, I mean, he had some length to his swing, but it finished with some whip at the end. He was just inconsistent finding the barrel. That was like the only like negative note I have on him. Mm-hmm. His arm was average-ish or whatever, but man, there's a lot to like. Tall, long-bodied. When he busted out that 6'4", 360, that was kind of like my second wow moment of the day. Whereas my first wow moment was the 6'4", 5. I forget who ran the 6'4", 5 or 6'6" early, but just how he ran it. Oh, it was Tate Gray running a 6'6", 4, just like, okay, here we go. He had a great stride. Kid's a beast. He was one of my top 3 favorite guys. Just not only the tools, the body type, but just the look in his eye. I love that look in his eye, man. He was there to compete. It was a showcase, but he was there to compete. He was there to beat everybody at everything. And I absolutely just love that about him.
And so let's talk about Tate Gray, because he was in my article coming out, just kind of the shooters 9 to know. These were my 9 guys going in that it's always so tough to narrow it down. But Tate Gray like punched you in the face, almost like, you know who Brock Lesnar was, WWE guy, like huge wrestler. Like that was Tate Gray. For any of you wrestling fans out there, it was full on Brock Lesnar coming out there, switch hitter, hit it hard. The run style, like Tyson Lewis came last year, ends up making $3 million in the draft out of the state of Nebraska. The running was very similar to that. Like, oh my gosh, that is a bear coming downhill at you through the 60. But then what do you do? Transfer over like the things that I'm constantly looking for. The explosiveness and the aggressiveness, obviously getting out of the box quickly. How hard can you hit the ball? Tatum Gray, 6'4" right here. Also hit the ball 109. He's a switch hitter. He's from Iowa, so like the at-bats are just not at the same level. He had a good summer, goes into the fall, really caps that. But Seif, you tell me, like I think there's a day one potential. If he continues to get better, it's tough being in Iowa with the spring starting so late, but the guys are going to have to go in there. And he did enough, I think, this fall. Showcase, obviously, was a loud statement there in Chicago. Switch hitter with a chance for power from both sides. I don't know if he's going to be able to catch. You can probably send him off to start. I'm thinking about like Carter Jensen was a guy that Royals took a few years ago in 21 who could really hit. Is he going to catch? We'll see, but the bat's going to really lead the war. What else did you have from Tatum Gray there?
Yeah, I think he is a day one guy if he goes out and shows he has a chance to catch, right? Like, and I was just doing, I'm doing some lists for D1 baseball right now, and like the outfield list right now is unbelievable, right? But the catching list, the third base list, they're really short, like as far as like quality guys. So
okay,
how this translates to Gray is like, okay, man, if you go out and catch, yeah, I'm gonna consider your day one just because you're athletic, you can run, he has a good arm. I mean, he threw 90 from the outfield, low 80s from behind the dish. It was easy arm action. The accuracy really wasn't there, but again, it's February 2nd, right? So like, how accurate can you be an indoor event? But I was really impressed with him. So I do agree with the day one assessment. If he shows he goes out and catch, day one as an outfielder, albeit a strong-bodied, athletic center fielder down the road. That's pretty attractive too. But yeah, he was pretty impressive day. I think we differ. I liked his right-handed swing better. You liked his left-handed swing better. So that means we liked him from both sides, right? Like that was just me. I thought left-handed, he spun off a lot. Right-handed was just more through the baseball. But again, I was looking at one spot of the place, and you had other views from where you were going back and forth to. But what to me it means is we liked him from both sides at the end of the day, right? So like he's got a chance, switch hitting center fielder that can run and throw and hit bombs. I kind of like that.
And one of the things I look for, like moving, like there were a couple bad pitches, like just happened to happen to him or be throwing. It was not happening at all throughout because those BP guys were great, but he kind of manipulated a little bit. So I like to just see that in BP every now and then, like, oh, okay, he's not just swinging at one spot, big, strong kid who can hit softball home runs or whatever. Like, okay, we got a chance to see that. But moving through, I'm just going to throw out some of my top guys so we can kind of go through that. Caleb Barnett, and now I have a ton of background there. I thought he was another monster winner. He's 6'6". The swing, it just comes off different for him from the right side. And then even more so, the two things that stood out at having had a ton of background with this kid from Alabama, is committed to the Crimson Tide, was what he did defensively, just the comfort of his hands at third base, the athleticism, like even picking balls throughout the catcher's pop times. Like it was just so natural for him with the glove. Obviously, it's a plus arm from the left side. I also know that he hops on the mound and can do that. But the frame, his face, he was still baby-faced. I'm looking at this kid like he might have 40 pounds to add to this frame. What did you have on Caleb Barnett for your first time ever seeing him?
I mean, he's 6'6", right? So you're thinking, oh, man, he's tall. He's going to have a long swing. But he had a sound swing, flat path. There was some length there, but it wasn't like he was creating more length. It's just because he has long levers, right? That's just him. He had enough bat speed. He had good bat speed, but he's going to have that leverage. That's going to be his thing. Defensively, I was kind of just humming along. Okay, yeah, he looks good, not great. And then all of a sudden he backhanded that ball and threw it 85 across the diamond without like shuffle throw. Like he just planted and chucked it 85. I was like, okay, he's staying there, even though he's 6'6", and that's a hard gig, 6'6". Like Alec Boehm is probably the only 6'5", or you know, that height, the guy that has success in the big league since Troy Glaus, and Troy Glaus played shortstop at UCLA, right? So like 6'6" at third base, it's hard to stick there, but he has plenty of arm strength, and he did show at least average hands like on a pro level. So yes, very impressive day for Caleb.
I'm curious what you had on Brandon Logan. So outfielder from the state of Indiana. He's committed to Notre Dame. Now, this is year 4 for me. And he's a dual sport kid. He's going to go play football at the University of Notre Dame. awesome interview. His swing and like in a one-off, like your first time seeing him, I could see like, okay, we're just kind of middle in. We'll listen to what you have in your notes. The advancements he's made from the summer into the fall to where he is now, I was ultra impressed. Kind of similar to what we saw, just the balance of the stroke of William Patrick. But he is the best defender in the class, best outfield defensive guy in the class. To see what his swing was, to me, it was like, hey, we're in a good place here. I'm excited to go see what he has this spring. What did you have in your first ever look at Brandon Logan?
Obviously, he ran a 6.41. He just absolutely floated.
And he wasn't going to run. He like told me he wasn't going to run. Then all of a sudden, he got inspired by all these other guys.
I'll just drop an 80 run time on these guys and go on the next event or the next event. He threw 90 from the outfield, which is average. But then in the box, I didn't love his swing, but I liked it. He was. I'm more of a hey, big guy, stay behind the baseball. Mm-hmm. He is more a little bit on top of the baseball. So when he's making contact, his weight is just up and down, right, instead of back, using his backside. But he still hit the ball 100 miles per hour. And my notes did say, don't love his swing, but he does take the bat to the ball. And then again, post-event data, you're looking up, he had 100% sweet spot rate, right? So like he's finding the barrel with how he swings. So if someone just teaches him or he just learns how to stay behind it a little bit more to drive it, so now his 100 becomes 106, and then progresses with age. He's finding the barrel. So obviously he has really good hand-eye and he knows what he's doing up there. But yeah, I mean, he's definitely I don't think he's a day one guy right now, but I think he can be a day one guy like soon.
and like,
definitely in 3 years.
And that's why I love getting like, just for anybody listening, I have each of your site. I try not to give you anything, just like you're talking about, because I don't want to give you any biases. I've seen these guys. I want to hear what you saw in the moment. What is the industry kind of going to be feeling coming out of this? Brandon Logan takes great at bats in games. So like he was at the end.
I can see that. Yeah.
Like takes great at bats in games. I'm moving over now to shortstop Aiden West, who we're looking at the blast motion stuff, which again, like I'm trying to find outliers, right? Who's at the top, who has stuff. So his on-plane efficiency was the top at the event from the blast motion side. I loved his swing. Left-handed hitter, NC State recruit from the state of Maryland. Sorry, Burton, if he's from Virginia. I think he's from Maryland. But it was just so compact and direct. And again, another small sweet spot for me is like you step into the box and from pitch one, you're not tracking, you're not getting timing down. You step up, the first pitch, you are on the barrel. Not that it's negative if you take a pitch, but it is a positive if you are barreling from pitch one. And he was on that barrel. And I just thought it was hard to find holes with how direct he was to the ball and how hard it came off the barrel. And then he looked really good at shortstop, dancing around. He's 6'2", about 200 pounds, ran a 6'5". It was just very fun to watch what he brought to the entire event. As we're going through, let's see, Aiden West, 6'5" runner, 88 across, 104 exit velocities. What did you have on Aiden West's site? Because I was a huge fan. And again, like I have background, I was eyeing him as a potential helium guy, looking forward to seeing what he has this spring. What did you have?
Yeah, the initial thing, right? They all run the 60 first, so obviously he impressed me in the 60 right away. Athletic, easy stride. He was almost a little too upright to have that great run time, right? You got to have a little lean, but he's like leaning back, like, hey man, try leaning forward, and you're gonna be running like a 6'3" or whatever right away. But again, I'm not the instructor here, but what really impressed me is like he literally like was like tiptoeing, like he was super light on his feet. It was like he was tiptoeing down the turf for the 60. And just to be that light on your feet was just amazing because he stood out in that regard. Like some guys cruised. Obviously, we talked about the guy running 6'29", so they're like just cruising guys. But he ran 6'5", which is good, really good. But just how he did it was like, ooh, that was different and that was good. I like to swing. I put good bat speed, and that's just my eyes telling me whatever. And now you look at the data that you just showed, and his bat speed was some of the best, like at 82 miles per hour. So like, I'm glad I still know what I'm looking at, even though I'm getting older here. But yeah, everything about him I liked. The defense I think is probably where he's going to make his. Well, he's 18, right? 17. They're all going to improve, but defensively, I liked him. Didn't love him. Had solid hands. Going to need, just need more reps and more time over there and develop a little bit more arm strength. Now, 87, 88 across the diamond, that's solid. But, give him those low 90s, and that's when you start, making some more money in the draft, when you can show the 90-plus arm across the infield, the 6'5", 60, and, hitting the ball 105, 107 miles per hour off a wood bat.
And I'll be curious to see what the arm looks like. I was very adamant to the shortstops. Hey, look for the glove to hand. Show it off early. Let's get rid of it. Move around. I thought that defensive portion in general really did a good job of separating guys. You could see a fair amount like, hey, this guy can stay at short or this guy can't. Looking at the Aiden West blast data with the 26.6 hand speed max, 24.8 average, which is really good. Bat speed, 82.1. I mean, this was really good stuff across the board with regards to the blast motion. I was a big fan. I did not know just how big he was until we met in person. Like it was a full 6'1", 6'2", not a 5'11". Like he was a very good sized kid. So to see him run that 6'5", not to mention he was my first interview of the day. It was an outstanding one. I'm sure it's going to be coming out soon. I pushed it to the front of the line because I thought he did a really nice job. I'm eager to see where the spring takes him. Scythe, the DMV, it's like at a soft spot in my heart. That just keep churning out prospects, and especially the helium guys. They just keep getting paid throughout the DMV. Talked about William Patrick, Tate and Gray. Let me ask you about Jacob Parker. Now, future or prep baseball All-American, the loud outputs, I thought his rounds were inconsistent. They were a little bit, was not on the barrel throughout, but when he was, it was like 407 distance. I don't know if you saw the data on that. I'll pull it up right here. Exit velocities. Jacob Parker, there we go. 408 max distance. Oh, Tate and Gray was 433. Shout out Tate and Gray. Those guys were putting some soccer players in danger. His run time to me was like, wait, what? And I told him the day before, if you run like a 6'8", 6'9", your power profile, left-handed bat, we like your swing. And then he goes out and runs a 6'4".
And it was easy. It just wasn't a like I'm gonna go grind out, max it out. But he was up again. Look for how me teaching. He's a little too upright, but whatever. It was super easy. 6'4", 5". Like athlete. Okay, put a star on him and go to the next round.
The bats. So like, and this is just the IDAR, right? Like his bat speed. There's times where it's in the zone so long, and there's other guys like I always go back to Riley Green. Whenever I would watch Riley Green, I loved him. He's like one of my favorite hitters since I've been doing this. Be like, oh, it's not super whippy twitch, but it was just that the barrel was just in the zone for so long that it almost looked like, oh, there's not as much bat speed. No, there's bat speed. It's just that it's in there for so long. And that's something that I thought Jacob Parker showed off. And then also a 91-mile-an-hour arm from the outfield. Does that 6'4" allow him to go to center field? This changes his entire profile if he can play center field.
Yeah, no, he was one of my favorites too. He's one of my top 4 or 5 favorites from the event. But again, this is my one day, my 7-hour look. So,
but like, and he's a top 25 guy in the class for us. And I go back like Max Clark. Max Clark came, showed off his swing. Like he didn't take the loudest rounds of the day, but we knew who Max Clark was. I thought Jacob, like there were some mishits, wasn't on the barrel the entire time, but like everything to make up, like the scouts, I think it was Saturday night, one of the scouts like, hey, who's biceps over there? Because he's wearing a t-shirt and just like a specimen. There's still a lot there. His brother, though, JoJo Parker, who's one of my favorites in the class. It's a different profile. Here's the one I want to talk to you about, Scythe, because I was pulling up the blast data. I was looking at our All-American. It was a little bit lower on the blast data from what JoJo had there. He's a shortstop. His data sets are really similar to Carter Johnson. So, and from a year ago, it's a little less whippy, I would say, with the barrel, but he's a more physical than Carter was. It was very interesting going back and looking at what they have. So any scouts out there pulling that blast data stuff and even the TrackMan stuff, very similar to Carter Johnson, kind of the setup, the profiles. Is he going to stick at short? Really confident kid. I like being around him throughout the week. Solid in the infield, probably more. I don't know what you had, but it's to me more of that dynamic, versatile defender. Probably not going to stick at short long time, but third, second, could give you a pinch there. Probably goes to the outfield. What did you have on JoJo?
Defensively, that's exactly what I had. Probably not a shortstop, but offensive second baseman or even utility going on third base. Really good athlete. Ran a fairly easy 6'6", strong body kid. Left-handed, like I thought he's got a heavy drift. Guys that drift pretty heavy, that's tough to correct, or it's a long-term correction. So did I like JoJo? Sure did. There's a lot to like, but like there's one thing he could improve from now until either this July or 3 Julys from now or whatever. It's just you got to ride the backside a little bit more, stay back, let the ball get deep instead of going out to hit everything 2 foot out in front of the plate. But that's just me.
Funny. No, it's funny, and I'm not a hitting guy, but to me, I was like that. What you saw with that drift, I thought if you take the drift this way and instead allow it to stretch, like I thought the hands could potentially in the future separate a little more back instead of drifting the head forward, allowing the hands to kind of rubber band back a little bit. We will see what happens there, but he's a kid I'm betting on. Just the confidence, being around him, interviewing. There's a focus to what he does and like a no nonsense, quiet confidence that I really liked. Let me throw out a name, a local kid who did a great job at the Illinois Pro Case a few days prior to. Have loved him kind of as a sleeper since he came to the future games. He's a Michigan State recruit, but a kid by the name of CJ DeKinga, third baseman. He's next to Caleb Barnett, Sebastian Norman, who was just an absolute freak across the board, athletically, hard hit wise, 6'4", 60 from Norman. He 6'1", 225. It was just like, oh man, this is unteachable. But DeKinga was just so smooth next to those guys, and his frame, it just to me was like, there's a lot to dream on here. And I'll kind of go back to like the positional stats, the infield velos, which 93 across. He ran a 6'7". He's 6'4", 200 pounds. He went 102 off the bat. It was one of my favorite swings. And I was keyed into it. Now, I think his best years are ahead of him, and we'll see what happens if any of the Midwest guys who do such a great job, those area guys, stay on it throughout the spring. But if not, 3 years from now, East Lansing, oh my gosh, this kid is so much to dream on. What did you have on Mr. CJ DeKinga?
Well, what caught my attention first is he's from Minooka. Like, and if you're from Illinois, you know Minooka baseball, right? It's like Jay Serra of California. Maybe not that to that level because that's extremely unbelievable. But like Minooka is baseball heaven, like in the Chicago suburbs. It's one of the. So anyway, that stuff. Like, oh, Minooka kid, he's got to be good, right? He ran 6'7". In my notes, like if of anybody that ran the day, I think he has the potential for the most improvement. And not to break him down, but he runs a little sideways. His stride's a little too short for running a good 60, right? Like you want a long, easy stride, eat some ground. But his stride probably plays really well on the base pass, because like you don't want a long stride when you're stealing second, right? Like you don't want a long stride when you're going home to first. So I think his 6'7" actually probably plays plus on the baseball diamond, where it's just an average run time. But I think if you want to improve his 60, man, he's a 6'6" kid, just with running more inline and lengthening his stride a hair. But again, I'm not a running coach. That's just what my eyes tell me. But I liked his. I thought he had good bat speed, a lot of hard contact from the right side. His EV, again, I'm getting this post event, was 102, pretty solid. And then he threw 93 from across the diamond. So yeah,
it was a little bit long with the arm, but like that was an easy cleanup. I felt like to me, I was like, hey,
I thought he had one of the better backhands of anybody. And I thought his backhand was very solid. And me, I can be that traditional crusty kind of hard grader at times, but man, I was like, man, he's got one of the best backhands we saw all day. But yeah, and I'm with you. 3 years from now, that kid could be on the somewhere in day one.
I am excited to hear that. Looking forward to following him. Let's go back to Sebastian Norman. Those three. So we've talked about Caleb Barnett, DeKinga, and then Sebastian Norman, who's over, and like his stat line from the day was just incredible. Look, 6'4", 560, 95 from the infield, 94 from the outfield, 107 exit velocity. There's some considerable power potential for my guy. Let's see, 398 distance.
Yeah, he had really good measurables. I mean, like you just spoke to, ran a 6'4", 107 max EV, hit 398 feet, through 94 from the outfield, 95 across the infield. I mean, so the tools are definitely there. That's a heck of a prospect the Cowboys are getting. My thing is, again, I'm not a swing doctor. I think I know swings, but his swing wasn't for me. Mm-hmm. But what was for me was the hard contact he was making, and it was fairly consistent too. So like I can go see a guy swing, like, well, I really don't like how he does it, but you can't deny what he's doing with it. I think he's just that type of guy. So I wasn't comfortable with how he's doing it, but man, I was very comfortable with how it was zipping off his bat. So I'm in on him too.
Spot on. And for 4 years, it's kind of been like Kevin Mulder, our director in the state of Missouri. We've had these conversations nonstop because seen Sebastian since he was a freshman, and it's been that freaky athleticism and loud outputs. I'm with you, like the mechanics of the swing. Hey, this is not exactly for me, but I'm not going to deny what he's doing. He was a treat to be around, was a really good kid. And I always go back like, hey, Giancarlo Stanton, like that swing's not for me, but he hits it really hard, hits the home runs, and he was an MVP. Like that, what I like doesn't mean like that's going to be it every time. You can't ignore the fact of what those outputs are. So you and I are both in the same boat there.
It's like Lance Berkman's right-handed swing, right? Switch hitter, but Lance Berkman, like I want nothing to do with him, but he's still like a career 260 hitter with that swing from the right side, you know. And I don't know if he's a Hall of Famer, but he's pretty darn close. So yeah, you can never just shut a guy down just because he has maybe not what you like on a swing, but it's what he does with that swing. And Norman certainly was blasting balls.
I'm going to bring up a few more guys from the positional side that I was a fan of. Now I have background on these guys, but like a kid like Caden Cloud from the state of Missouri, I really like the swing, the way he went about it. Another guy, I'm not sure he's going to stick at shortstop. He's committed to Kentucky, but I think he's got a real chance to hit. Now I've seen him in games, so it's a bit more knowledge. He was much bigger in person. Like he's put on a lot of strength. That was something being next to him. You could see kind of there's power that's going to be coming from his side of things. The kid, Matt Ferrer from New Jersey, the outputs weren't as loud. I almost wanted to check the bat. Like, what kind of wood are you using? Maybe you need to go, he lives in Tom's River, go check out what Todd Frazier's getting in there, get some new wood from him. But I like the mechanics of the swing. Not a shortstop, probably going to be more of an offensive second baseman, potentially a third baseman. Rhett Johnson was a little dude from the state of North Carolina. I think he's got a chance to hit. He's not very physical. I don't know what the impact ability is going to be. But him going off to NC State in 3 years, being, a top 5 round type guy because of what he does. He was only a 6'7" runner. He is coming off an injury. I think he's quicker on the base pass than that. But I like the swing there. Anything about those 3 guys? Because I know you want to get to Chase Kroberger at some point.
Yeah, we got to talk. I'm with you on Klaus. Like you brought me on here for my raw, what I saw, right? And again, it's a one thing look. But as far as his measurables, I mean, a 707, 60, 93 exit velocity, and then 82, 84, throwing arm, that doesn't jump out. But obviously he signed to LSU. He is a guy. I just didn't see him on his best day, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was probably battling some sickness, right? So like that is what I saw.
Much better in games.
What's that?
Much better in games.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's just what I saw, right? This event showcase. So, that's what I saw in him. Let's see here. Everett Johnson. Yeah. I mean, a small guy, little guy, probably a heck of a baseball player. He's going to step in and be a now guy at NC State, play a lot when he's a freshman and go from there. Obviously, when you're 5'6", 5'7", your upside is immense, but if you can play the game, put the bat on the ball, make the routine plays on defense, you're going to find your way on somebody's draft board, in the middle of day 2, as far as your future. But again, like you said, he didn't put up great measurables, but the kid looked like a ball player. And is probably, again, better on the field in game action. And I forgot the third guy you're talking about. Farrar. Is that how you say it? Matthew Farrar?
Farrar, yep.
All right. I like to swing. I put a right-hand hitter, very good bat to ball, simple swing. Defensive is an average defender with a below average arm, again, from shortstop. So I don't think he sticks at short, probably an offensive second baseman down the road with a little like kind of that sneaky power. But he definitely stood out as like, hey, he's going to be a good college performer from day one.
It's again, and all these guys are Big Ten prospects. So like going back to that big fish theory, keep that in mind. What did you have on Nick Diaz, kid from Florida, who we've seen for a while? I really like the swing. I had multiple guys kind of come up, and it felt like, hey, who's this kid? And in my head, I'm like, the kid who's at Stoneman Douglas who just churns out prospects. Like, everybody should know him.
Most impressive. I mean, he threw well, 88 or 90, 91 from the outfield, ran a 6'9", but he's a lankier guy, right? I'm thinking the same guy's got a longer. Yeah, lankier guy. I like the swing. He took the barrel of the ball. I mean, finds the barrel consistently. He spun off occasionally, but I guess I may have seen the 1 or 2 swings where he did spin off because he was barreling at 90%. So I the post-event data afterwards, but the first part of that was just my notes: barrel the ball, finds the barrel. But I mean, he barreled it max EV of 101, and just with that body type and athleticism, there's definitely an improvement, over the years, and that's another really impressive guy on the day as well.
Yeah, Danny Wallace, the guy we've seen prep race All-American. Like, interesting talking to him. He's lost close to 20 pounds in the last 2 weeks because he was sick. He did a solid show, kind of similar to Burkholder from last year, where it was like, hey, it wasn't the super loudest stuff, but it was like, hey, it's a good check-in, like where he's at. Oh, he was sick for the last couple of weeks. Oh, wow, he's still a good athlete. We're all set there. What did you have on Cade Elam? He was
I like Elam, yeah. Yeah, that's another one I liked.
QB1, committed to Louisville. I loved him. I thought he moved really confidently at shortstop too. He was kind of making throws from all angles. So give me what you got from Cade Elam.
He had a raw swing for me, but it wasn't like raw in the sense it's bad. It was just like, man, there's power in there. I like the swing path. It just needs some refinement. Got a little bit of narrow setup. He's kind of got the narrow setup, lifts that leg and glides a little bit. I find guys that do that, they tend to rush. So all of a sudden your foot hasn't fully landed and you're starting your swing. So you're going to be in and out. I mean, it just causes a lot of bad things. But again, there was strength. There was a lot of things to like. He ran a 6.7. He's a strong body dude running a 6.7. Then he threw 85 with athletic actions from shortstop. So I think he could be a plus defender at third base when it's.
I'm with you.
When all shake out, he's a plus defender at third base. He's not even a huge power guy, but he's going to have enough power to stay there.
Yeah, and coming off quarterback, big time quarterback.
Okay, so you know all this QB1 stuff.
Seifert, you know what's crazy? There might have been 10 QB1s there. Like, each kid was like, won a state title. This guy did this. Like, each kid that interviewed was a quarterback, which I guess my sweet spot there. We're just bringing as many QB1s as we can at all times. But if you told me that somehow Cade Elam went off to Louisville, they moved into third base, and in the, 25, 26, 26, the 2028 draft, we're talking about that kid being a top 15 pick because he's just torn up the ACC. There's ingredients. And I think that's where we always come back to scout the tools, scouting that player like, hey, there's upside here. He moves well. Awesome stuff from you, Seif, on him. Let's get to your red meat. Okay. Let's toss it out there because Chase Kroberg, and I'm going to put the stat page out. South Jersey kid, Morristown, some good players coming out of there. Chase Kroberger, who was awesome to talk to. He and his dad had some bets on the line at this event. I don't know, Chase, if you actually made those because he's trying to run a 6.3. He went 6.43, 96 from the outfield, 102 exit velocities. The blast stuff, the metrics. Tell me about the actual swing because he's not the biggest guy. Right-handed hitter. What did you like about Chase Kroberger?
He just gripped and ripped it. Like, it was an aggressive swing. He was up there just gripping and ripping. And, like, typically guys up to grip and rip, it's huge power to your pull side, right? Or every ball is hit between shortstop and the left field, right? Mm-hmm. He was up there gripping and ripping. Everything was a line drive back through the middle. I'm like, oh, that's pretty good, right? You don't see that very often. Like, you don't look for the outlier in the sense that you're not going to go draft the outlier every round. Like, just because, like, hey, if those type of guys never work out, why even drafting them? But like the outlier, when it's a good thing like this, like grip and rip up the middle, hard contact, 101s, 102s, that's what I'm looking for. And then he busted 96, throwing from the outfield. And he did all that after he ran a 6.48. So like he was one of my immediate like circles, like top 3 round potential. I really liked him. a lot.
And Seif, you'll like him even more because I know we talk a lot about the hallway heat in South Jersey.
This
is a hallway hitter. So he's over that BPC spot too there in South Jersey. I've
never seen some more video because I didn't know they were hallway hitters. I just thought they were Chase Petties. So
you got to watch. Joey Loperfido is a hallway hitter.
Okay.
Oh yeah, the hallway heat may be overshadowed at times by the hallway hitters, but the tight connection, and it's. I don't know if it's like the cutoff late. It's just stay on the barrel, but it has that like Drew Burris, the Jet Williams,
Drew Burris
guys.
That's awesome. Yep, Drew Burris is that you hit that one on the head for me. It's the same type of guy, right? Like, I'm just going old school. I am just going to go up there and swing hard, and great call.
And I think there's a quad of Georgia position players that we have to talk about. Huge year for Georgia, coming up to the event, showing out right on the precipice of their season on deck. But like these top 100 guys, you're talking about Terrence Bowen, who did a nice job at shortstop. John Stutzer, who shortstop, center fielder, where's he go? 6'5" runner, 100-mile-an-hour exit velocities. I think he has a chance to be a buzzy name throughout this spring. The profile, I thought he did a really nice job at shortstop, moving around, even though eventually I think that speed will push him to the outfield. Josh Gibbs, who is just, I was looking at Zach Neto stuff because the way the swing works is a little bit funky, gets things, but it is electric bat speed, everything. He's only about 5'11", 170 pounds or so, but man, does he play much bigger in the box. Did his thing at shortstop, 88 across the diamond, just kind of flicking it. He just finds a way to win at all times. And then you go to Cannon Golden, who a left-handed swing, direct to the ball, sprays it around, comes off the barrel, plays hard at all times, looks really good in the outfield, coming through the ball. He's going to stick in center field. Again, that left-handed stick, 6'5" runner, athlete. He's one of those guys you just don't want to bet against. Whether it's this year or he goes off to Ole Miss, he's going to fight his way into a lineup earlier. He's going to be a guy that over time, scouts kind of develop like, hey, this guy's going to play hard at all times. We want to get him in the bat the ball. With the power ticking up in the future, I think he has a chance to really make a jump. Going back to Bowen, I love the smoothness of the swing. Oklahoma State has done a really nice job grabbing these guys who are going to be electric in the future, like a Danny Wallace, all these nice guys that kind of sit on that will get to Stillwater in the future. And then again, Gibbs, Stutzer, it was just a really fun crew from the state of Georgia that got out there up into Chicago and showed out and put on for the Peach State. Seif, what do you say we transfer over to the pitching side of things? And I know this is a meaty podcast. That's what the Super 60 is, right? We're getting excited. We're booking trips. Where are we going this spring? I'm currently down in Tampa, getting ready for some big stuff this weekend at IMG in the preseason classic. Pitching wise, there were less arms this year. We had a bunch of lefties that had to drop late. Seif, just in full disclosure, there was a lot of sickness moving around the country. So adapt, improvise, overcome. That's what we do. Prep baseball. But there were some fun arms. You talk about right off the shoot. There's a kid, Charlie Wilcox. It was a big year for Georgia and the state of Florida coming up to the Super 60 as their seasons get going. I thought Charlie Wilcox was outstanding. We'll shift over and check out some of the data sets from his fastball here as we go to TrackMan. It was a clean starter profile from a kid who I was amazed at just how big Charlie Wilcox is in person. Could not get over the fact 91, 93, 3 pitches for a strike. Oh, he was up to 95 here, 25-13 on the RPM, just off the initial look, pulling down at 17.5 induced verts. For him, and there's a few, and once Sight gets back on here, I'm always curious, in full disclosure here, do splitters get you paid? That is going to be something to follow in the future. In the past, it was not something that was really considered, but Charlie it was an impressive look at a splitter, along with Cooper Moss, another panhandle kid from the state of Florida who looked good in his showing. But Charlie Wilcox, athletic two-way potential guy, super physical, pulling up his stat line, 6'2", 209, big broad shoulders, to workhorse frame. Spun it well. Everything was a strike, 4 quadrants. Seif, I'm talking about Charlie Wilcox here, who was one of my favorite guys, just an easy starter profile. And I just asked the question, Seif, do splitters get you paid? It's like the new age, like everybody kind of has a splitter. It's like, are we going to have to start evaluating these? Because he threw a really good one for a strike. I noted down like, hey, this is a real weapon for this kid. Anyway, what did you have on Charlie Wilcox?
Quick arm, three-quarter release, 91, 94. I liked his two-seamer. He had some good sink to his two-seamer. His four-seamer had some good angle to it. Yep. The curveballs are work in progress, at least on this look, right? They're getting, 4 minutes of pitching. So I liked his delivery. He just kept it simple. I mean, he picked it up, put it down. I put him as a top 3-4 round prospect for this year's draft.
Oh, yeah. I was talking about just how big he is in person. Like, I was astounded. I'm like, I feel very small standing next to this guy. You got to have those big workhorse arms. Let me ask you about a couple guys. Wyatt Nadeau from the state of Maine, who, full disclosure, was a late ad, just hops on a flight, says, give me the ball. I'm hopping on the mound. Boom, here's 96 from a guy who's 6'6", 250. Moved really well, and he put the fastball wherever he wanted. I think he was a guy that you really like. He's a Vanderbilt recruit.
Yeah. I mean, some guys, when they get that big and that strong and stuff, their arm doesn't work. They're a little stiff here, stiff there, or whatever. But his arm worked great. He wasn't stiff. I wouldn't say he's a super awesome athlete, but he's certainly athletic, right? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he's a really good basketball player. But yeah, up to 96, like you said. The thing that was most impressive, though, was he repeated an average to better slider. Like he was one of the few. He was one of the few. Like a lot of guys had good stuff, good pitches, but he was one of the few guys that were throwing 2 pitches, 4 strikes consistently, right? Again, they're only getting 20 pitches and it's limited and they're out there, pumping up and things like that. But I was just impressed by, the flashing the plus slider, throwing the fastball up to 96 in the zone. Then he also had a split and a curve. So he had a really good day. And I think he was the first or second guy that threw. So it was
he was tossed right into the fire. You're talking about hoops. I mean, the Cooper flag effect. It sounds like Seifert now just assumes everybody from Maine can play basketball. What about him versus Miles Upchurch? It was a note I put down. I was like, these two, there'll be some comparisons. What do you got here? I thought that the Upchurch's fastball was a little bit more explosive, but whereas Nadeau spun the slider better. What did you have on Upchurch?
Yeah, I would agree with you. The fastball Upchurch, he just let that thing eat, and it was awesome. He was probably my favorite. I would say he's my favorite right-handed pitcher on the day was Upchurch.
Oh, wow.
Fastball to 96 a couple times. It just ate its way to the plate. He spun a below average. This is the pro scale, right? Below average curveball, but it was just spinning and the shape and everything. I think it's going to be a plus curveball down the road. He controlled all the stuff. Again, the curveball swing and miss potential down the road. He repeated his delivery, super clean arm action, good arm speed, lower effort guy. So I think I put him as an A follow. Like to me, he's a day one guy to consider. Again, you're putting these guys into buckets, right? And so he would be in my national cross. I know how it goes, area guy, regional cross checker, scouting director, specialist. I get all that, but he's an immediate guy. Like this is a national cross check guy for me right off the bat. You don't even have to go to your regional cross checker on this guy. He was my favorite right-handed guy on the day.
Yeah, a lot of those guys, it's like, hey, don't overthink this. Like, not many people look like this. He's got some unteachableness, big physical frame, thick lower half, the fastball's movement patterns. Not much movement on that breaking ball, as I just showed here on the TrackMan data. If you go down, there you go, not much going on. But again, it's Chicago, February. Hey, we're going to come back to it. The fastball metrics are there. Who were some other guys Seif for you?
Man, I liked another Vandy kid. Like I'm left-handed, right? So I got the partial to the lefty pitchers. Cash Mayfield last year really got me going. Like he got everybody going, right? But my guy this year, I really like Talon Haley. I mean, wow. Lefty, loose 3/4, but it was a 3/4, but it was also downhill. I think those guys separate themselves too. Like you can be 3/4 and flat, or low 3/4. Now we want the rise ball. I get all that. But like for me, Haley was just loose 3/4. He worked downhill, was low effort. He was 91, 93. He has an average now pro changeup, which it's only getting better and better. Great feel. He just repeated everything, including his fastball, just down in the zone, down the zone, down the zone. And he could spin it. Like I think he has a near average breaking ball right now. Had some teeth to it, some late action. And kind of how I do my notes is when a pitcher gets done throwing, I'll just kind of evaluate, I'll rank their pitches. Like, so for like most pitchers, it's fastball, then slider, then and a changeup, right? They have distinct levels. For me, every pitch he threw was on the same level. It was all in the A tier. Fastball, change, curveball, all in the same tier, all usable now, all present.
195.
Yeah. So I really liked him. If there's one guy from this event that I need to go win a game tomorrow, based on, again, what I saw in my 20 pitches, Haley's the guy. Like, hey, let's go win this game.
Wiry, great interview. You like him, like this kid's battled cancer. I watched him at the NPI years ago during chemo sessions, coming over to throw games. As nice as a human being as he is off the field, he gets between those lines, and this dude competes. And you talk about he had a slider, both a slider and a curveball. I think both have a chance to be real weapons for him. The fastball, though, and again, I wasn't looking at the velo board. The TrackMan's back by where you were. I was just trying to get the feel for how does this kid move? How quick is the arm? What is the feeling that I get? His fastball felt uncomfortable to what I would have felt in the box. It got on the plate in a hurry. His late horizontal movement, the arm side life that he had there. He got down the mound. The extension was there. He threw a really good changeup too. And he repeated it. He threw multiple strikes with that pitch. I think in the spring, there'll definitely be guys going out to see him a fair amount. 6'1", 195. I think the lower half had some strength to it. I think he could still add. We've had some really good history in the past with left-handed arms coming out of the Super 60 and continuing to succeed. I'm with you, Seif. I was blown away, and I was ecstatic for this kid who we've loved since he was a freshman, playing for that Easley Baseball Club. He's done such a great job there at Easley, does an awesome job with that program. But seeing him at the NPI each year getting better, and I think his spin is much better, or is even better than what you saw. So if you had it good there, you're going to like it even more in the future.
And since you asked, since it's my time, I'm gonna mention another lefty, right? Like one of my other favorites, another lefty, Ethan Rogers, going to Wichita State. Did a little differently than Haley. Rogers was a high 3/4 guy, but it was good down angle, 90-91, moderate effort, loose arm, athletic delivery. Had the fading changeup. He had and when I say fringe is good. Like if you have a fringe pro breaking ball right now, that's good. So don't take fringe as bad, but 80-81 with good spin on his curveball, fading changeup, like I said, in the low 80s. And then he had that cutter or a hard slider. I wrote down cutter. It could have been coded as something else, but 85, 86, really good cutter. He had control and feel for 4. Like how many guys have control and feel for 4? Like they just aren't. There's not too many of them. So Ethan Rogers really stuck up.
I love that you like him because when we go through the rosters and we're looking at those guys, I love when we can invite a player like that who's from a super small town, moves well, where it's not, this guy's not famous, but we got to get him there. We think he moves well. We think he has a chance to be a starter. Let's get him in front of these scouts so that they can see him. And when guys make the most of their big spotlight, I'm always ecstatic about it. He also, that little cutter slider thing, he asked during his bullpen, hey, can I throw this too? And one of the scouts is like, yeah, I think you need to throw that again, buddy. So it's awesome that you saw that from him. What about Luke LaCourse? Because he was one of my favorite arms. And you know me, spin wins. I want to see as much spin as I can. I don't know if I've ever seen 3,500 plus RPM, but this kid did it, and now I'm gonna probably in the future now have to start checking fingers. But I don't think he was doing anything with regards to that. But you can look Luke LaCourse, 35-16. He is in the midst of basketball season right now too. Which, hey, is he going to be built up? So I mean, I'm sure there's a chance he makes another jump. It was a physical frame, kind of that short arm stroke. It's just kind of like a power arm stroke, I would say. I would go through it like that. Let's check out where he was velocity-wise.
I had him up to 92.
92 plus, 2680 on the fastball. So, and that was my thing. It was hey, it was a riding fastball, hoppy, to see that 2680. And again, I was not sitting next to the TrackMan. I wanted to get the feeling of not being biased by what the numbers were. So looking at this now, it's oh yeah, that's quantifying my eyes. Thank you, TrackMan, for telling me I was able to see this one pitch on this day. But good for him. I know he plays basketball, so a good athlete coming from Michigan, which just keeps churning out pitchers and prospects in general right now. It's safe in Michigan.
Good old Midwest shooter.
I'm gonna pin the Midwest against the Midwest. Michigan versus Illinois right now. They're pushing you guys. I will say that. What else did you have in Luke LaCourse?
I like the breaking ball. I put a flashed above average curveball. I had no idea about the spin rate being 3,500, obviously, but my eyes just man, that's a pretty good breaking ball, 79, 82 miles per hour. Again, flashed above average. And like you said, more of the power type, higher effort guy from a high 3/4 slot, but certainly with the fastball, the curveball, and the slider, all usable pitches now. He's got some good upside. I had no idea he's in the middle of basketball season, things like that, but he definitely made a good showing for himself.
I'm like Mr. Background Info.
That's for sure.
Any scouts out there, great interviews. These kids, I think we did 50 interviews on Saturday, and it's awesome getting a chance to talk to them and get some of that background. What about a kid from Wisconsin? We'll just stick in the Midwest because Peter Cassot was one of my favorite bullpens now for 4 years. This 25 class is unique in Wisconsin. It's kind of been all over. It hasn't really settled. Pete Cousseau, Andy Soroka, Vinny done such a great job up there. This is the guy. This is the guy. And we head over and kind of look at the stat line. So Peter Cousseau right here, up to 95, worked 93 95. The curveball was 87, 88. Now he flashed as a slider. And then the changeup was 88 to 90. It was a power changeup. He threw, I think it was 100% strikes each pitch. And wow. And Steve Nielsen, who's did such a great job putting the event together for us, was like, did you see the data sets? Which I did. He said everything was a strike where he put it. And that Seif, I'm sure you probably have it in there. It was funky. Like there's a lot moving around for this guy. But they're all strikes, crazy extension. And he had told me the night before, he's like, what pitch do you like throwing? I love throwing my slider. I will throw it in any count. I'll throw it at any time of day. I will step out of bed, throw that thing at will. And he's throwing it at 87, 88. And talking with Andy Soroka, he's mixed the curveball in the past too. So he has a chance to differentiate those two. And I thought the changeup was a weapon as well. What did you have on Picasso before I give you even more background info?
Well, as soon as he took the mound and threw like 2 or 3 pitches, I was like, that is Kyle Cody. You may not know who Kyle Cody is.
Who's Kyle Cody?
I was an area scout. And Kyle Cody, anyway, Kyle Cody was a draft and follow of the Phillies. I think we took him in the 20 some round. There's 40, 50 rounds back then. I'm kind of old, but he's good. He turned down $300,000. $300,000 then though was like $1 million now. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Like as far as signing bonuses go. But he ended up going to Kentucky. I think he blew out. Came back, and he then was drafted, I think, as a senior in the 9th round, spent some time in Pro Bowl. He may still be in Pro Bowl for all I know. But anyway, as soon as he threw, I was like, that's Kyle Cody. I don't know where Arrowhead's at, but to me, I was born in Wisconsin, so I can kind of rip on the state, right? So there's Wisconsin that borders Lake Michigan, like the Milwaukee, Green Bay. That's all good. And then you have Madison, and then the rest of Wisconsin is kind of like the Northwoods. That's at least so. If Arrowhead's up in that area, but that's where Kyle Cody was from. So just a big, strong dude, just throwing bullets. Really like Cousseau, kind of longer path, more of a leveraged. Had some arm speed, but it was just more leverage velocity with the longer arm path, arm strength guy. But it was loose. It wasn't stiff. It wasn't frozen. Right. Like the slider. How could you not? Average athlete, and like you said, the power curve or the slider, fastball up to 94, 95, and then a firm changeup. But yeah, there's a lot to like there. I wrote down in my notes, if the draft is tomorrow, I'd take him inside, somewhere 5 to 10, one of those rounds. Probably didn't get a sign. I probably wouldn't sign him there, but super talented guy going to Louisville.
Bullet slide, like it was impressive to watch. I was happy for him. He was, to me, like a huge surprise because, again, I know all these guys. So to see somebody come in and be like, wow me, it is very impressive. His sister is apparently like a 5-star hooper. Like she's one of the best basketball players in the country. So you're going to have to look her up there.
Definitely there, yeah.
I'm assuming she's at Arrowhead. Might have to get her on your team, Seif. I don't know.
I got a team of 29s. I'm not sure. I don't know. She's already identified as a 5-star hooper, and she's an 8th grader. That's pretty impressive too. So.
I'm pulling up a little bit more from him. But anyway, getting back to they labeled a curveball. He's calling it a slider, but you can look kind of that bullet slider there. It was hard. So for those of you who are not there, it was firm just to hear what that was from him. I'm looking through some more pictures. Like Reed Worley's guy was an All-American. I'm a huge fan of. He handled business. Like there are certain guys, like he's on a certain level of day one-ness where – he handled business. He's going to be pitching this week on Thursday. Games are coming. We go back to the spin rates. He's 3,000 plus here. Let's find him. I think they called it a slider. We might have to fix that. Reed Worley, 32.51 in the slider. He's averaging 3,100 plus. Went through a routine starter bullpen. And what stood out to me about him is he's very comfortable in his own skin. Like nothing speeds him up. And I love the fact that he can adapt, improvise stuff. What is it? Jeremy Guthrie. Like there's some like Jeremy Guthrie to him. Maybe this is dating me. What was the guy with the Royals pitcher? Zach. Greinke. Like playing wise, like there's now I'm just making up names here of guys who are wiry, can manipulate the ball. But what did you have on him? This is probably maybe your second time seeing him, but it was not like, hey, this guy's going back there and throwing 100 right now. No, this is a starter profile. This is what this guy's doing. What did you have?
He was one of the very few, and when I say very few, I think there was only two, but I can't even find the second one. But I actually thought his best pitch was a slider. Now, he had a 191, 93, 94 mile per hour fastball, which was impressive, but I actually thought his slider on this day, on this look, was his best pitch. Yes. I was really impressed. He repeated it. He snapped it off. He had a little bit above average arm speed. He had solid arm action, and he also had that split, right? He threw that split in there, 85 miles per hour too. But just if there was one guy outside of my lefty there, Haley, but if there's one guy, the righty that had the best feel to spin like a true breaking ball was Reed Worley. I really liked it.
I forgot you. Do splitters get you paid? That's going to be the question.
I don't know if they get you paid in high school, but they certainly get you paid as if you're trying to a senior in college trying to become a day two value guy. They certainly get you paid in the value program. So.
Now let me ask you, because like Nate Schlote, he's been up to 98 the past couple of weeks. Kid from Kansas. We're talking about a lot of Vanderbilt recruits. They must get good pitchers to that.
Yeah, all three of their guys are pretty impressive. I like all three of their guys there.
It was some explosive stuff. And the spin, there was all sorts of spin. There's all sorts of metrics. There's a kid, Owen Hall, from last year. I think the Tigers gave like 1.5 last year's right-hander. You probably never got to see him, but it was a super hoppy fastball. Is he going to be able to start? We'll see. I'm sure they'll send him up. That was kind of the vibe I got at Schlote. Like, hey, these are some serious metrics. There's clearly some effort. And then every now and then he'd be like, okay, I'm going to throw a curveball here. And that was close to 3,000 RPM. And what did you have on him? Because he was a curious case for me at the event.
I think he's a now guy. I mean, he's a power now guy. He looked a little relieverish just with the higher effort and the head jerk. But, I mean, he's up 94, 96, put it in the zone. Firm changeup. I think it was 89, 90, but it had some good dive. It had good dive. It wasn't a split. I think it was just a firm change that had dive. And then he was dropping hammers, 82, 84 breaking balls, which again, very impressive, but just a really good arm. With 3 pitches was flashing, feel for 3 pitches, but just how he did it, he fits right into the back end of somebody's bullpen more than like, hey man, there's our number one starter. But very impressive. All, like I mentioned, all 3 Vanderbilt arms there were very, very good. That's a pretty good, and we didn't even see all their arms, right? That's just a really good start.
No,
to the recruiting class.
It's funny because this is like the bare minimum. Like, okay, I got the stat sheet, and everybody wants to comb the stats and immediately going right. Like the sexy stuff. Who threw the hardest? Okay, Miles Upchurch was up 96.5. Awesome. The bare minimum. Like, okay, what were the spins on some of these? Schlote 2,800 plus on the fastball. Which is not the end all be all. So do not kill me, pitcher Twitter out there. I'm not saying that's it, but this was like an initial look. And then do the opposite, right? Outliers. So like super low. Peyton Lee, I did not realize was up to 95. Now it was more like.
So you gave me about 15 minutes ago. You told me I could pick my pitchers who I want to talk about, but then after 2 guys, you stole it back from me. Peyton Lee was the 3rd guy I was going to talk about.
Was he really? Go take it.
No, Peyton Lee, as soon as I saw him throw, he reminded me of a guy I saw this fall. The name's Lance Davis. He's an Arkansas prep at Arkansas. I saw Arkansas play Oklahoma State this fall in 3-game series. But as soon as Peyton Lee took the mound, I was like, that's Lance Davis 2.0, basically. Very impressive. 93, 94, good arm speed. Yeah, fringe changeup, but it's going to be a plus changeup soon. It may be already. I just saw fringe now, but loose arm, tall guy, great body, had a feel to spin with an 80, 81 curveball, but he was on the day, he was one of my top 5 or 6 pitchers too. But Peyton Lee's super impressive there. And
you know what's funny about him? Because I loved him this summer. It was an ease of operation. I thought there was way more effort, and like that's right. The Super 60, there's 150 scouts right on top of you throwing your bullpen, and that's natural, right? To have that adrenaline. I think he'll be even better this spring. It felt like bowling balls. He's tossing it up there. Now I've seen those bowling balls in the past that he's thrown up there. But like seeing the fact that he was up to 95, which I did not know, was very interesting. And obviously Matt Hobbs just such a great job there at Arkansas. You easily start envisioning guys. Seif, now that you've taken what is yours, who else did you have on your list?
Those are my top three. But I also did like, let's see here. Got to scan it here real quick. Like you said, bad airtime right now, but
Well, I'll ask you like Brandon Shannon. I love finding those Illinois arms. I think he's a future guy, but like he had some unteachableness of that arm strength to me. Was a bit of a shorter strider, but like there's stuff to work with in Brandon Shannon.
yeah, loose arm from a lower slot, long lanky frame. Yeah, he was a good one too. Head to Louisville. He's a for me, like I put him in buckets. Like I said, he's a 2C the spring buck. You know, in that bucket, he's not like a top 5 round guy for me from what he showed, but he's definitely a guy 2C in the spring to see the improvement or what he is against hitters.
I had him on my reroute list because it's kind of like, hey, we're going in to see Appenzeller or we're going in to see Fauski. We're going to just go check in on Brandon Shannon's starting tomorrow. I'm going to hang around. I'll stay for his game and then fly out. Like that's kind of stuff for me, those guys. What about the kid Jay Ciola, which shout out to him. He put like a rubber band on his hat so it wouldn't fall off, which I have never seen a kid do that. I was about it because Twitter's some old man's going to yell at a cloud, why is your hat falling off? Well, I don't make the hats, but I'm sorry. It just fell off. So he kept it on, moved well, quick, loose, whippy arm. There were metrics on the stuff, could spin it, some effort, but got down the mound. Well, I was just curious, like, what did you have on it? Where is he going to be? What did you have there?
Well, see, I got a little insight for you there because my daughter was helping handing out the gear and the hats. And she said a lot of the hats were a little too big. There were too many big hats and not enough light. So I think he may have got one of the we don't have your size, so take the bigger hat. Unless you want a headache, then take the smaller hat.
You got background info too.
I got background for you there too. So, but you're gonna have to run the name by me again because I never caught the name when you said it.
JCO. So he's a Nebraska kid, tread guy. Like I've seen, done some really good stuff, but he moves well, and it was a loose, whippy arm. Like it was a dynamic mover. That's kind of what I put down. And now we'll follow and see what he does in game.
Yeah, for me, it was higher effort guy, but it was 94, 95. You can't teach 94, 95, right? So if there's some effort, so be it. Sometimes that effort loosens up. That was one of my biggest scouting lessons I learned. Just because a kid throws with a lot of effort when he's 17 or 18 doesn't mean he's going to when he's 22 or 23. So that could be JC's deal. He was deceptive though, super deceptive. Fringe slider 87, he just ripped it off. His hand, it was like natural. He's just ripping off sliders naturally. Some guys, they're pushing it or guiding it or steering it, whatever. He was just ripping them off. So, 94, 95, ripping off good sliders. There's a lot to like there as well.
It's the 94, 95. It's amazing how hard these kids can throw in a bullpen. Like it's just impressive. What about like Eric Peralta as a guy? Like it was a longer arm stroke sinker, but like his frame is just like so outstanding. I mean, he's same high school as Dylan Betances. Jeez. If you can think back to that with the Yankees and Mets, I'm going to go check him out. I've seen him throw a ton of big sinkers in the past, but I do want to also throw out, that'd be remiss if I didn't talk about another Jersey kid, right? With Frank Carone, who is another hallway heat guy. What was fascinating to me, went all stretch, 88, 91, easy left-handed arm stroke. Go over to the metrics. I did not think he was up 3,000 plus on the breaking ball. Did you have that?
Pennsylvania lefty with feel for 3, good feel for the slider, 78, good action. I thought it was a longer break, so to me he has to shorten up the window where it's breaking. Okay. So no, did I even think that he was spinning up there 3,000 RPMs? That does not match what my eyes saw. So that's good. That's good to know. Really good to know.
Yeah, I had the quality change up all stretch. I'd be curious if he incorporates the windup in the future. He is a hallway guy there at BPC though, so you'll be seeing him a bit. His velocity has not jumped. My note was like, and I told TJ, my brother in New Jersey, I was like, I would not be surprised if that 92 to 94, you start seeing that into May as his arm gets more into shape, but it was super low effort. And I'm intrigued to see what happens with him. There were a few coastal guys there that were really good. Any other pitchers? We could go through each of them. Maybe in the future, Seif, we just each guy, boom, 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 boom. That we just the same way we did interviews on Saturday. But any last guys, and again, I will scream from the top of the hilltops. All these are prospects. Every guy there is a prospect. They're all big arms, big velos, good movers. There's a reason they're at the Super 60. But any last guys before we wrap up here?
The last guy, I'm pretty sure we didn't talk. Luke Roop
Oh,
from
first guy of the
South
day.
Carolina. What's that?
First guy of the day.
Okay. I liked him. 90-92. I thought he had
Yep.
solid feel for 4 pitches. The changeup was a little firm, but like he had feel. It wasn't like it was just up there spiking it. Curveball was an up and down breaker. He also threw a short more lateral slider. But yeah, as far as like 4 pitches, 6'4", 210, heading to South Carolina. But I didn't know he was one of the first pitchers, but yeah, he impressed for sure.
He was the first guy. I got a chance to see him warming up, and kind of what you're saying, like he did a great job with the fastball, really set the tone. I said, hey, you need to set the tone for this. And he really was a great opener, did a good job.
Opener. I like it, shooter. I like it.
He was an opener, but he's going 7 every time. So this has been awesome. This has been one of our meatiest podcasts here. We really got after it. Some behind the scene note stuff, cruising through just kind of the baseline of the stat page. Be sure to head over to prepbaseball.com to check out all that stuff, the content, stat stories. I'll have a bunch of my favorites. I guess I've already given you the insight on my guys here, but if you didn't listen, you can read through and fast forward through whatever I had to say here. Seif, what's up next for you? How are you getting ready for the college season?
Right now with D1, it's all of our conference previews. So, we're ranking every prospect in the conference, both 25s and 26s, and then obviously impact freshmen. And impact freshmen can be prospects, but they're more like, hey, who's going to go out and do it as a freshman? And that, they can be the most talented guy, but if you're buried on a roster where there's seniors everywhere, right, it's kind of an older man's game. But anyway, so D1 baseball, full-fledged. Check that out. A lot of like daily stuff, 2 conference previews a day, a lot of ton of stuff coming out. Trying to keep up with the JUCO scene with all the JUCO coverage we got going on. And I'm heading out. I'm going to start opening weekend at Globe Life Field, watching 6 teams battle out there in Arlington with Arizona, Clemson, Texas, Louisville, Ole Miss, and Oklahoma State. So
are you sitting in the box? Are you sitting in the box again?
I am sitting in the box right behind the plate. You'll see me back there.
All right, wave to me, please. I'll send you a text.
I already got the hotel. It's not a fair field, so I'll be better off. It sounds like than you are right now. But got the flight. I'm ready to roll. Ready to roll.
Awesome stuff. Well, I got some Florida action. We'll be talking about it. We got a draft board update coming a couple of weeks from now. Some good stuff. Mock drafts on the way. Maybe it's a longer than I got to check the dates on those. But another great Super 60 in the book. Can't wait to see what these guys do this spring. And until next time, we'll see you at the ballpark.